Hi creative friends, this is Soraya and thank you so much for being here. So today I am so excited to talk about this color exercise where we hone in on our intuitive self and we translate our emotions or our insights, our impressions into color. But before I do that, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for the way too kind and sincere comments that you left on my post yesterday about my YouTube journey. I just feel so humbled that you guys are here and that you actually, spend your precious time listening to me. So thank you so much. But anyways, let's just dive right into this. I started doing this because I am working in this book over here and I am working in a very intuitive way. This is my art journal on healing ancestral trauma. So I want to delve into the depths, okay, of my shadow self, my ancestry, the belief systems, the just the framework, the nuts and the bolts, the light and the absolute depths. So what I started doing is, because I'm doing a lot of journaling, like as in writing, I started kind of doing a lot of deep dives. So asking myself questions and, coming up with answers that were not only in writing. So I'm trying to explain this in the best, most simple way of what exactly I am doing. So obviously we know that, writing is one form of communication. There are so many different forms that we can communicate with, not only other people, but our deeper selves. So what I'm trying to do is I am trying to communicate with other parts of my selves, like my child self, my wounded self, my 2-year-old self. Maybe something happened and that attaches onto a whole belief system that came from an ancestor that I don't even know. So obviously you can see how language would be very restrictive. And I have the added complexity of, say, my great grandmother. So not too many generations ago, they did not speak English and I only speak English. So you can see now how language becomes not a barrier per se, but it becomes like not a logical way for me to access those pockets of information. Because obviously if I have a belief system that got passed on from 8, 9, 10, who knows how many generations ago, and these ancestors did not speak English, well, now how am I going to access that information by using English? Like, do you see what I'm saying? So I'm trying to access these pockets of information in different ways. And one of the ways that I have that is a really powerful messenger of ideas and beliefs is color. And I actually look at color because 2 days ago I made a video on the Medial Woman archetype. And I actually look at color as a medial woman archetype itself, because color is like, it carries information. It goes from this world to that world, and I'll explain what I mean. So you guys, before I go on, I just wanted to say that obviously this video is not going to be for everybody, but if you are interested in working in a more intuitive way, if you are interested in delving deep, if you're interested in shadow work and pulling up these pockets of information, and putting it in your art, or all of these different streams of thought and ideas and ways of being and doing, then I think this video might be helpful to you. So anyways, so yeah, I do look at color as a medial woman archetype, because color does go from the, it carries information from different worlds. So what I did is I started off with very neutral or lighter energies. Now, of course, energy is just energy, but there are light energies and there are more dense energies. Not to have any judgment, like the dense energies are terrible and they're bad, and the light energies are good. I'm not, no, I don't look at energy like that. But there are energies that just tend to be lighter, and then there are energies that tend to be very dense. So for example, if I say to you joy, joy is a light energy. You almost feel like you can fly. Like it's just this energy of lightness, airiness, like, oh my goodness, like it's just such a light energy. But if I say to you shame, well, that is a dense, dense, dense energy, and you can feel it in your body. Because to me, joy, I feel it in a different way in my body than I feel shame. Shame is like lead, it's like quicksand, it's pulling on me, it weighs me down. Again, no judgment, because these carry so much information. They are, you know, pockets of information, messages, energies, etc. So not to look at it with judgment, but by the same token, to look at it clearly and say, well, some energies are lighter and some are more dense. So I wanted to start off with the light energies. So I just used things like, you know, like fall or bold, glitzy gold, midnight, you know, soft. Like all of these are just, they're either neutral or they're very light sorts of energies. And, you know, over here, I was just being a little bit playful, and I, you know, put crushed raspberries, and, you know, I was thinking about Siena in Italy. And so I was just like very kind of, you know, being kind of silly and playful and just lighter types of energies. And then what I did, oh, this is still like very light, happy, bold, you know, cinnamon, etc. So nothing to, you know, it's just very kind of playful. And now what I did over here is now I'm kind of exploring a little bit more complicated kind of feelings, energies, I guess. So over here I have fertile. Now, obviously, there's no right or wrong way to do these exercises. This is all about your personal visual language. This is about your intuition. This is about your dreams, your memories, your belief systems, your ancestry, your. It's so personal. Like, there is no right or wrong. Like, you know, I have this one over here that says forest. Well, to somebody else, you know, they might not have this green for forest. Like they might have something completely different. And different people can have different memories, collective memories. Like I remember, for instance, when I was visiting Croatia, and I was in the capital city of Zagreb. Well, there was a huge massacre that happened about, I think, 60 or 70 years ago. And they took like, I don't know, like 500 people into the forest and just, you know, kill them, like massacred them. And so there's a big, like there's a huge statue that commemorates the whole event and whatever. But my point that I'm trying to make is that, say, somebody who has a collective memory of something like that, well, forest is probably not going to look like this. If you think about it, like just say, you know, their grandparents were taken into the forest and murdered by the Nazis. That's exactly what happened. You know, they're going to have a completely different, you know, a whole different energetic structure, if you will. So this is all very, very personal, and it's meant to be personal. There is no right or wrong way to do it. This is about you, you know, honing in on your intuitive self, and you are becoming, like color, you're becoming the medial woman. You're going and pulling information from this place and that place, and you're bringing it into the physical world, which is your swatch, which is your paint. So you're standing on the edge of the two worlds, and you're bringing this information, using all of your skills, using other senses other than language, and you're pulling this information into the real world from other realms. Now, this one was a really interesting exercise. And what I did with this is I just picked an artist, that I know. And I said, okay, I'm just going to, try to kind of really feel it in my body and see what comes up, see what color comes up. So for Picasso, this was not really a surprise, because to me, this is like passion, a little bit of cruelty, because he was a cruel person by all accounts. But, just a lot of passion. He had that magnetism. He had that raw passion. I mean, he was painting right up until the day that he died. I don't know if there's any other artist that is more prolific than Picasso, and not just in terms of the number of paintings that he did, but just in terms of the genres that he created. I mean, he created entire genres upon genres upon genres. I mean, Picasso is like, he's synonymous with artistic brilliance. So to me, this did not come as a surprise that I'm going to pick this like really raw red. It's that fertility, creativity, the the genius, the energy, so that was not a surprise. Now for Frida Kahlo, what happened is I picked a much initially I put down like a very kind of a pinkish red. But then what happened is I started feeling differently, and I started getting all these other like intuitive hits or information or whatever you want to call it. And I became overcome with just sadness, like just sheer suffering and sadness. And of course, her life was very, very painful in every respect. I mean, physically, mentally, emotionally, etc. So then I overlaid it with a darker red and a couple of Payne's gray, and I really brought it down. And this was a little bit surprising to me, because in my mind, when I went to go do this and thinking about Frida Kahlo, I kind of had more of a image in my mind of like, when she dresses up and she wears all the flowers and she's just, just so beautiful painting and just so in her element. And I kind of was trying to get to that kind of feminine creative part, but what I got was just sadness, just this like really dense energy. Now this is Cezanne gray, and now I'm not trying to replicate any of his grays. I mean, he's a master, there's no way I'd be able to do that, but what I'm trying to do is get to his essence. And when I visited his studio, he obsessed. When I tell you he obsessed, I mean he really did obsess about the color of his walls, and he wanted the perfect gray, and he did the same thing with his floors. And it is truly the most beautiful gray I have ever seen in my entire life. But anyways, I'm sorry, I digress. But what I'm trying to get to is his grays were like warmer than what a gray kind of you would normally think a gray would be. So I was trying to get to that. And this is Modigliani, because when I think of Modigliani, the brilliant Italian artist, I think of his neutrals. So that was Modigliani. And another surprise that came, now these were not surprises, neither was the Picasso, but the Van Goghs were a surprise, because when I use my logical brain and I think about Van Gogh, I mean, I get so sad because I mean, think about his life. I mean, he just, there's so much suffering he endured. I mean, untold suffering. Everything from the way he lived and, you know, his schizophrenia, who knows what other mental illnesses he had, and then, you know, the way, I mean, his suicide and just everything. But the thing that was really surprising to me is when I did the Van Gogh yellow for the sunflowers and the Van Gogh blue, which is, you know, to me represents Starry Night, I just became so joyful. And I got so happy that I really started crying like happy tears, just like I started crying for Frida Kahlo, like with her, the weight of her suffering. I started crying like happy tears for Van Gogh, because that is exactly what the intention behind his art was. Like when Van Gogh painted Starry Night, he was actually living in the asylum, and they would go on field trips during the day, but he painted Starry Night from memory. Like he was not out there at night painting. He would go there during the day, and then, I mean, accompanied by, you know, all the people from the hospital, and they would have like a field trip or whatever. And then at night, or when he was at the asylum, then he would paint Starry Night. And his whole intention behind painting Starry Night was the joys that you can get from the humility of just a starry night. Like it was just in a small French town in the middle of nowhere, and he imbued it with so much joy and magic in the simplicity of things. And I could start crying right now because I felt it. Like I really, really felt it in my being. And so let me see how I can explain this. So what that taught me, I guess, is that not only can I access Van Gogh, his essence, his intentions, so I'm using the color to go into the other realms, and I'm accessing all of this information. I'm accessing all of these energies, and in doing so, I'm also accessing my own emotions. I'm accessing parts of myself. So do you see how this is such an interesting exercise? And it's just blowing my mind away. It is so informative. It is opening up my heart. It is opening me up to accessing information in different ways. And I am going to move on to painting now the more dense emotions like shame, like betrayal, etc. But I did not want to start off with that, and I'm not going to do it right now, because if you are going to work this way, I would advise that you kind of do it in this way, like especially if you're accessing things like trauma and all of these very dense emotions. I would suggest that you start off like in this way, very light, you know, just joyful, the lighter energies, the playful, the fun, the silly, the neutral, like drab. Drab is just neutral. It's just like blah, like it's just like, you know. Or midnight. Midnight is just neutral. Like it's not good, it's not bad, it's just a neutral energy, right? So I would start off with the very lighter or neutral types of feelings, energies, however you want to call it. And then I would, you know, branch off into, say, things that are a little bit more complex, you know. Now, honestly, chocolate is not complex, but I think at the time I was maybe eating a piece of chocolate. So I put down chocolate, but you get my point. Like, you know, now this one over here is very interesting. I put chiclets, and it's really, let me just share this quick story. So when we were growing up in South Africa, there was gum, and it was called chiclets, and it was this exact color, and it was really bizarre. But me using this color and, you know, really kind of trying to access that memory, I could actually start smelling things like around the time I was like 4 or 5, and, you know, going to like to this little kiosk and buying the chiclets, and like it's really, really an interesting exercise, you guys. Like I would absolutely, absolutely, absolutely try this out. Like if you're interested in painting more intuitively and just accessing information in a way that is not only like language, you know, like I'm a writer. I like to write. I've always been like a writer and a reader, but there are pockets of information and energy and belief systems that we cannot access with our language, with the written word. And I think color is just such a great messenger. Color is the medial woman. And I think this one here too is just a really good exercise to pick a few artists, and they don't have to be your favorite artist, but just pick some artists and then just kind of like visualize, you know, the artist, visualize some of their works, and, you know, journal, write down questions, you know, ask questions, ask the artist questions, say, hey, you know, Frida, blah, 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 and just really try to feel it in your body. Now, this is a different way of working even for me, but what has caused all of this to come up is I am working in my Healing Ancestral Trauma journals, so I have to access information in different ways than I have thus far. So this is like going really deep. This is doing shadow work. You know, this is deep work, you guys, but it's really exciting to me as well. And what I mentioned yesterday when I did my video on my YouTube journey is that you know, I want to make this video and I want to put this video out. I don't want to wait like a month from now when I you know, start talking about shame and betrayal and all those denser energies. I don't want to do that. I want to put this video out now, because if somebody is going to use this information, then I want you to have this information right now. Like, and I would recommend that you start off with the lighter and the more neutral energies and emotions, and then go into like, you know, say like you're some artists that you know. That way you're not so emotionally like attached to it. It's not like your shame. It's not like you're suffering. Now what I realized is, like, when I got really sad with Frida Kahlo, yeah, I was able to connect with her energies, but I was also getting in touch with my sadness and my pain, but it was like in a circular way. It wasn't like a direct way, like as if I was going to be doing shame or you know, betrayal or something like that. So I would recommend that you work like this. And if you have any questions or any feedback or anything like that, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.